Down a darkened drive, you'll find their candlelight. From a widow's peak, you'll see it burning bright. Through the double doors into their dusty tomb, you'll feel eyes from paintings follow room to room. On the creaky stairs, you may think twice, as you tell yourself those bangs are mice. In the upstairs hall, you'll see shadows dance. There's a light from the candle, this is your only chance. You run and you cry as you curse this dark night, only to find at the end there's no candlelight. Instead, there's some headphones you put on full of fear. When suddenly it's every nightmare rolled into one that you hear. And it says, "Welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow with your host, John and Stacey Edwards of ParanormalSideshow.com. Hello and welcome to the Paranormal Sideshow. I'm your host, John Edwards, and joined as always by my lovely wife, Stacey.
Hello.
And it's been a strange week.
It has, but isn't it always?
I mean, is it always?
Sometimes.
I don't know. It's been really strange. It's felt really strange. Mm-hmm. Something bizarre is out there. Something wicked this way comes even, which is a weird name for a movie, but all I remember of the movie was the fact that it had something to do with Carnival, mm-hmm. and it had something to do with creeping me out, and it was like the commercial that creeped me out as a kid. Mm-hmm. So I can't really tell you anything about the movie. Do you remember anything about the movie?
Yeah, absolutely. I watched it several times.
Oh, really? So you've seen it more than once.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
See, I know I've seen it, mm-hmm. but I can't tell you the first thing about it. I remember the title, and I remember being a small child, mm-hmm. if I remember correctly.
You want me to give you the gist of it?
Sure.
The carousel at the fair or the carnival or whatever.
All right.
If you'd ride it, it would make you younger.
Oh, no way.
Yes.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it did have to do with a carnival.
It did, yes.
Did you lose your soul or anything?
I'm sure. I don't remember that much.
Wasn't there like
it.
a ringleader guy with like a big top?
Absolutely. Of course there was.
Okay. So there was a me in it.
Yes.
Very
absolutely.
Cool. Very
absolutely.
cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I've always loved the title.
Mm-hmm.
Something wicked this way comes.
Mm-hmm.
I've used it a lot for jokes and stuff. Mm-hmm. So now I've just outed myself. We're going to have to watch that.
It's been a long time.
Do you think it holds up? Is it something like, you know?
Absolutely.
So yeah.
I think so.
You seem like you liked this movie.
I did. I mean, I was young when I saw it, and I liked it. It creeped me out too, but I thought it was interesting.
Oh, well. Well, speaking of creeping you out, so I heard there's this book, and it's a paranormal book. Mm-hmm. It's a paranormal book about a couple.
Right.
Okay. And it's doing pretty well. It's doing pretty good.
Yeah.
It's doing pretty good. I'm just saying.
It must be a good read.
In case you haven't heard, in case you haven't read it, mm-hmm. It's called, Till Death and Beyond. And it's about a journey of two cats named John and Stacy. Mm-hmm. And man, wouldn't it be funny if it was really about two cats named John and Stacy? Someone's on Amazon right now, two cats named John and Stacy. And there's this whole thing about these two little cats that have this really crazy journey.
I mean, there could be. I've never looked.
There's some crazy Disney movie. Talk about crazy movies. What about the stupid Cat in Space movie? Do you remember that? Or The Invisible Cat?
The Cat from Outer Space.
The Cat from Outer Space.
I loved that movie.
Did you really?
I did. And he had the collar. And he could talk. And the collar was like, yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, except you've seen the movie. You know how I saw it.
Oh, that's right. With the little slideshow at school.
Yeah, because I went to the poor school. Mm-hmm. I went to the poor out in the stick school, and they would show us movies during movie time or whatever. I guess if we were good little minions. Right. And they would actually show us movies where you got the audio, but it would make the me, and then your teacher would hit the
Your substitute teacher.
Your substitute teacher would hit the little slide thing. No, they always did ours in the band room because that was the only room in the school that had air conditioning.
Ah, I see.
So when we were really good, mm-hmm. we didn't have to die from, sweat or whatever.
Right.
And we would go and we would have this. And I remember The Cat from Outer Space because I was like, oh, this sounds really cool. And it was still pictures. And, I think that's where my imagination was created. But speaking of imagination and Cats from Outer Space, if you haven't got our book, shame on you. There is no Cats from Outer Space in our book that I'm aware of. No. Unless Stacey wrote something about it. But it's called Till Death and Beyond. The best way to do it is just go to ParanormalSideshow.com or, go to ParanormalSideshow.com. Sorry, I think that's the best way to do it. People probably think you actually put that in the show, but that's just me. That's just me. Anyway, you go to paranormalsideshow.com and look it up. There's a link to the Amazon on the paranormalsideshow.com, so you can go and buy the book on Amazon. Or if you want us to put our paw prints in the book, you can do that through our paranormalsideshow.com as well. Or you could be a patron. And if you are a patron, you would do the Patreon deal, which would be patreon.com/paranormalsideshow.
Yes.
And if you want to be a patron of the show, we greatly appreciate that. And you will get, different levels there. One of the levels includes the book and everything else that we do, including the t-shirt, including the 8x10s, including, used underwear. Everything that we throw into that one section is on that level with the book. But if you want to be a patron of $5, just $5. I need to break that down per day.
How much it is, how many cents per day, for the cost of a cup of coffee.
Because that's what I heard on, was it Coast to Coast?
Yeah,
on Coast to Coast, they were like for
it's like 15 cents a day.
For 15 cents a day,
insider.
You could be a Coast Insider. I was like, wow,
that's so reasonable.
We could tell them it's like for 3 wheat pennies a day. you could either sponsor a starving child or get our extra show. It's one of the two, which in its own way.
Yes, and we do have the extra content for the $5 patrons or more. You get our John and Stacy's Realm of Shadows show, and that
John and Stacy's Realm of Shadows.
And the first episode of that is already up and available.
It is
for the patrons,
and it's a good 2-hour conversation with David Weatherly.
Yes, it was very interesting.
And of course it was. It was David Weatherly. His name should be David Interesting.
That's probably his middle name.
It is. It's absolutely. I got it on good authority. His name is David Interesting Weatherly, and he could talk about blooming anything. I just throw stuff up during an interview with David just to see, it'd be just to have fun. Hey, David, what about incestuous clowns? Oh my God, John.
I have this great story.
Incestuous clowns. One time Arizona was overran with them. They didn't really bother anybody else. There was a bunch of brothers and sister clowns, and it was just a weird day, But yeah, he definitely has a story, and a cool story. Not just a story. Everybody has stories. He has cool, creepy stories that make me not sleep at night. So if you want to hear David be weird, become a patron. Support the show. Go to patreon.com/paranormalsideshow. Or if you're lazy like me, go to paranormalsideshow.com and it'll take you to all these places that we're talking about.
All the links are there.
All the links. That should just be, we should just allthelinks.com. That would be
misleading though, because then you would have to have all the links.
Like all the links.
All the links for everything.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You owe me a Coke. So speaking of things that are really cool and interesting, I'm going to let you guys in on something. I would be remiss even if I didn't talk about it. So can I talk about it?
You can talk about
it. It's a little thing.
Okay.
So the little thing is we've been working on a newsletter.
Yes, we have.
We ask you guys, and you guys let us know, and we're really appreciative of that. And in fact, you guys seemed pretty excited about it. So we were excited about it already. And the newsletter is going to be pretty daggum awesome. It's going to be a weekly newsletter, and it's got all kinds of awesome features on it on what we're working with. I've already wrote a big article for the premiere edition, and we're going to have some things in there like an episodic fictional story from the beautiful and mysterious Raja. And she's going to be writing an episodic story. She's a writer. That's just what she does, and we think she's pretty, banging good at it. So Ariana is going to bring that teenage perspective from time to time.
Occasionally, yes.
Occasionally, and give a little review of some television shows.
Yes.
Some, paranormal television shows, of course.
Absolutely.
She could give a review of the one where she played a ghost.
She could.
She could.
She would think that ghost girl was amazing.
That ghost girl was pretty cool. But there's going to be stuff in there, obviously, about our news from Stacy. There's going to be things in there, I don't know, moon stuff. There's going to be, God only knows.
Whatever we feel like putting in
Whatever we feel like putting in there.
That's
it's going to be really cool. The big thing you got to do is subscribe. And we're going to have all the information for you to subscribe for the newsletter. That can be on paranormalsideshow.com.
Yes.
And then, in coming weeks, we can make that easier for you and let you know how and where to subscribe for that. But you're not going to want to miss this. If you're a fan of the show, if you're a Sideshow off, you need to absolutely take part in the newsletter. And we're also going to try to include some of the listeners from time to time too for contributions. Anything from art to stories to anything like that you may want to contribute to the newsletter. So it could be sort of a community thing.
Absolutely.
Be absolutely kind of cool on that. If you got some paranormal things you want to talk about, just get a hold of me and Stacy. You could do that probably the easiest on paranormalsideshow@gmail.com. Just send us an email and let us know, hey, what you'd like to do.
That's right.
That's how easy we are. So, I'm just real excited about the newsletter. I think you guys are going to really dig it. Not that we're not doing a lot of extra little things such as the Patreon show and the newsletter and the book. And, we're trying to be little busy bees here. So I think you guys are going to love it. I'm really excited about it. Everybody's really excited about it. But don't forget, you can find all this on paranormalsideshow.com. Or you might be able to find something on facebook.com/paranormalsideshow.
Possibly.
On Instagram, it might be
in picture form.
It could be in picture form, but it could be John and Stacey Edwards that you have to find. On Twitter, it may even be
at Sideshow97.
It could be at Sideshow97. You never know.
That's a good place to look.
I'm telling you, it is a great place to look. So, speaking of good places to look, all right, I love to have my segues that have nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about next.
I love those.
Yeah, well, this is one of those. So, time to time, we like to listen to other podcasts, and I have a job where I'm on the road quite a bit. So during the #Bruce Wayne job, I have to drive hours and hours at a time.
Yes.
And during those hours and hours at a time, I have to find stuff to listen to. And when I run out of Sherlock Holmes books, I like to listen to things like Joe Rogan's podcast. And when I'm listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, sometimes there's a spectacular episode. And that happened this past week. So I got to talk about this because I don't always talk about other podcasts, but when I do, it's probably because it's Alex Jones' podcast. So obviously, Alex, I'm doing air quotes here. They dug up some stuff on Alex over the past year, and for well-deserved, he got in some trouble over some things with the Sandy Hook stuff. And, because sometimes I think he lets his mouth go too far. And,
right.
So there were some people hurt, and obviously that's a very sensitive subject. And so he spent the first part of this podcast with Joe Rogan, which if you haven't seen it, go out of your way to find Alex Jones Returns to the Joe Rogan podcast. It's the second podcast he's done with Rogan. Anyway, to tell you how people are liking this podcast in a little bit under a week already has 10 million views.
On YouTube.
Just on YouTube. And that's not the pirated ones. That's on Joe's own account. 10 million views. Now, mirrored stuff where people are trying to just steal views from it. I've seen some of those with 100,000.
Yeah.
And then Joe gets 90 million downloads on his podcast every month.
Oh, yeah, because it's everywhere.
So, because he'd said originally 30 million, but then he said on the show 90 million. So, I think about that. Even if it was just the 30 million. Okay, so everybody is getting to hear this. And, when you got 10 million views of a podcast
right
on YouTube, it's a pretty big deal. So this is really, it's by and far more popular than any other show he does. So this should tell people something, right?
Right.
So obviously, if you don't know, and if you don't know who Alex Jones is or whatever, Alex was deplatformed last year. And he was deplatformed over a lot of things that are going on, a lot of the political climate. But the funny thing about this is Alex has never been either a Republican or a Democrat. Now, he was pretty pro-Trump, but he wasn't, when I first started watching Alex or listening to Alex, I was never like in the church of Alex. It's just something I was into conspiracies. So if you're into conspiracies, you tune in to Alex Jones from time to time. And when I first started watching things from Alex, he really was against President Bush, who was also a conservative, a Republican. So then he was against Obama, and then he was against, this and that. So he really seemed more anti-establishment than anything.
Right.
So I never really thought about the political thing, but neither here nor there. That's not what the meat and potatoes of this is, or why we're talking about it on the Paranormal Sideshow.
No.
About 30 minutes into this podcast, which this podcast is like 4 hours, by the way.
Yeah, and like the first 30 minutes is kind of political. You just got to kind of get past that. The big chunk of the rest of it is amazing.
Yeah, so somewhere around 30 minutes in, I mean, the wheels come off. And it's like Alex had this information because on his show over the years, he's never really talked about stuff like this. I mean, really, in the past, Alex Jones has been more about like Bohemian Grove and infiltrating, you know, the businessmen and the world leaders,
the global elite,
and the presidents and everybody that was out there. And yes, the global elite that out there, and they decide who the next 10 presidents are going to be while they're having a little hotty toddy time with each other, and you know, having the big cremation of care. God, that's a beautiful event. We have our own little cremation of care out back every summer. You know, just saying, Illuminati, if you ever need new members, I mean, John and Stacy will not, we won't tell anybody. I mean, we'll even sign the paper, whole eyes wide shut thing, just, you know, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
We can keep a secret.
So moving on. You know, he did that, you know, which is horrible. I can't believe those people did that kind of stuff. But, you know, he infiltrated it. And then there was the 9/11 inside job, which he was a really big, you know, on that. And the underground, I remember in the old days, the underground videos that would go out about that stuff. And I even remember ordering wrestling DVDs. And all of a sudden I was watching like old Memphis wrestling, and on came the first 9/11 documentary Alex Jones did, and it scared the piss out of me. I still have this. I could pull this out of a shoebox over here and show Stacy. So I don't even think I ever told her.
But it was on one of your wrestling ones that we ordered?
I ordered this old, like, burnt copies of this old 1980s wrestling. And this was back in 2004.
Do you think we accidentally gave him some secret code to get like the secret documentary and didn't even realize we did that?
Oh man, it had all kinds of stuff on there. It was like, it was back when people used to like burn that stuff.
People don't really like the wrestling. They're just like, yeah, give me that old wrestling, wink, wink.
I'll take the 1982 Memphis. They're like, no one will ever order this stuff. Let's just say that it's like, you know, 1981 house shows. Who's going to order that? I'm like, 1981 house shows?
Awesome.
Groovy. But yeah. Anyway, so that really got me down this crazy road too. Like that was one of the ones that really got me like, whoa, this is really cool. So, you know, over the years, he's been that guy, right? He's been the FEMA camp guy. Oh, we didn't get shut down, did we? We literally got shut down one time when we were doing this live, and I said FEMA camp. So anyway, so we were watching this, and I told Stacy, I was like, we got to listen to this thing, man. So we're actually, we actually go driving at night just to listen to this whole deal. And we watched some of it, listened to some of it. Like I said, it's 4 hours. So, I mean, he went deep. He went deep.
Oh, wow. Some of the things
and
he
the
went
thing
into.
is, they always make sense. Like Jamie, who's in Joe Rogan's control room, is always like the pretentious keyboard guy who's always better going, you know, well, actually, it's like our, you know, Wes used to be with us.
Yeah, it wants to look everything up.
Yeah, like, actually, guys, that was in 1928, not 1929, and it was ivory, not cotton. You know, whatever it was.
Right, whatever they're talking about.
Yeah.
He's fact checking.
Oh yeah, always fact checking. Well, every time he fact checked, it was crazy stuff. It was right. And so he was blowing Joe Rogan's mind like early on. It was hilarious, right? So like one thing in particular, he was talking about some of the government experiments in the past and some of the things they got from the Nazis. Talking about the fact there was like VR back in the late 50s, and they look it up, and there was the patent from 1957 of a VR machine. And it actually had the smells and all this stuff, you know, associated with it. But that all goes into the same thing. He started talking about breaking through to the other side, which we're really, you know, close with. And how the aliens or interdimensional beings control everything. And they are really the ones running the show. And you go all the way back to Eisenhower's, you know, farewell speech, military industrial complex, things like that, right? Everybody's always sort of theorized that we've been in contact for a while, but with these interdimensional beings, or everybody who has like the DMT experiment,
Right.
If you ever watched The Spirit Molecule, a great documentary on DMT. DMT is a psychedelic drug, and it's in everything, right? It's like the thing that's like in everything. It's in the human body already. I think the theory to it, or maybe the fact, is that when you die, the DMT is released in your own body, and that sort of starts that experiment or that travel of your consciousness to the other place, right? So when people take this DMT, and it's normally been under controlled circumstances, but I think they do that recreationally as well, it's always, well, I shouldn't say always, it's most of the time having the same experience where they meet someone they call the machine elves or the clockwork elves. Okay, so the clockwork elves just sounds cool in the first place, right? That sounds like a new indie band I want to start.
Right.
But if you look this up and you really get into it, it's amazing. It's really cool because people are having the same experience, and they go and they talk to these people, and usually the experience is something like, hey, you know, we missed you, we expect you to be coming, and we were waiting on you. And then they start showing you all these like designs and all this sacred geometry and you know, all this amazing stuff, all these secrets of the universe. And the DMT trip only lasts 10 minutes, right? So that's kind of crazy. But also, if you do like the ayahuasca, right? Ayahuasca, you can actually do. You can go to Pennsylvania right now and get in this little groovy little camp and with these people, because it's more of a religious thing. I think they still got it.
I think if you look it up, there's a place you can go overseas to do like a whole ritual with a shaman, and they'll like guide you. Like I think it's recommended you have a guide because it's so trippy. Yeah, and you know, someone to kind of lead you through that experience. And
they know that you're going to go too far. Like you're not going to get what you need to get because you're going to. It's easy to trip out when you meet the elves. But here's one of the crazy things, okay? And you'll get this if you watch that podcast or listen to that podcast. Some of the things that have happened is, say there's 30 people and they all do the ayahuasca at the same time, okay? There's stories of them all tripping the same thing, all experiencing the same phenomena of like the elves coming out of the jungle and talking to them. And the way they presented it was pretty cool because it was kind of like maybe it's always there, but your mind has to filter it out. And you know, you do this together, so they're experiencing the same thing because it's there. Right. Just interesting stuff.
Super interesting, yeah.
Because I mean, even with the DMT and ayahuasca, just the whole point was trying to get to that other side, being able to break through that veil. And the article I've written for the first newsletter that we've done is really about this, and it's about some of the things I believe also get you through that without taking a psychedelic drug. Right. Kind of, you know, I think when you reach a certain level of enlightenment and even a certain level of meditation, that you absolutely are breaking through. Even on some of our, you know, technology that we use, on some of the sweep technology, okay? I believe ITC can honestly take me there. And I delve into that more in depth. So definitely subscribe to our newsletter, pick that up, read it. And I, you know, other than that, I really just think that everybody needs to listen just for your own fun.
Oh, absolutely. Because it's more than just the DMT. I mean, Alex goes into all kinds of things about aliens and about the government. If you're into conspiracy theories, definitely want to listen to all the different things that they have to talk about.
Absolutely.
It will blow your mind.
Absolutely. And speaking of blowing your mind, it's now time for Stacy and some paranormal news. She's the GOAT of paranormal news, traveling the globe to find you the stories you didn't know you needed to hear and the stories she knows you'll never forget. It's time for Stacy Edwards and Paranormal News.
All right, so let's get to the news.
Let's.
Okay, so this first story is just another story like all the stories that we've been doing, and I just put it first to go ahead and get it out of the way. There was a fire at a church in West Virginia.
Oh, man.
And the church was burned pretty good. There's some pictures. There's some pictures. No. However, the firefighters, while they're searching in the rubble of the church fire, said that they noticed that not a single Bible was burned in the church. Wow. And the church's cross was also untouched. Oh. And now this wasn't just like a little fire. Like if you look at the picture, the whole roof's gone. Yeah. There's pictures of the Bibles in the rubble and stuff.
Yeah, it's more than a crush.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But apparently none of the Bibles, not even one of them, and the cross was untouched. So just another story in a long line of our religious items have not been burned in this devastating fire story.
All right. So look, that's like several.
Yes.
Like more than several. Several. Whatever comes after several.
And since last year, I don't know, probably about September
Yeah.
last year, something like that.
All right, guys, listen. So we've had all these stories where there's been something like a church burned down or a house burned down and the family Bible didn't burn. Nothing burned in it at all.
Or the picture of Jesus didn't burn.
Picture of Jesus didn't burn.
Yeah.
Some religious artifact did not burn. I'm telling you, that's weird.
It is weird.
I mean, come on, that's weird, right? We've been doing this news for a decade. And never have we had this. We've had that happen before.
Right.
But we've not had it happen like this. Like, we've had a church not burn before in a whole town of fire.
Right.
But no, this is
a lot of stories in a row.
Yeah.
It's unusual.
Patterns, people.
Yes. So
it's all patterns.
Is this some kind of a sign? Is this some sort of warning?
Get your ass to church.
or something like that. You know, it makes you wonder.
Yeah, it does.
Makes you wonder because...
Makes you wonder.
It's obviously not a usual pattern.
No, that's not a normal thing. They don't make the fire retardant Bibles. I mean, it's although it's probably a good idea.
Yes, apparently.
But I don't know. It's a demonic trick.
Well, at any rate, it is interesting, and it's like I expected.
It's hard for me to go, like, I like to go and investigate things, but it's hard for me to investigate this because I would have to recreate it, and I believe I would get in trouble for burning a church down. I don't think they would understand my holy reasons for this.
Well, one of the stories was that the Bible in somebody's house didn't burn. So
we must burn somebody's house.
We could just like say, "Excuse me, can I come and hang all these religious paraphernalia in your house?" It's no particular reason, I swear, and then just burn the house down.
Do you know what's going to happen? You and I are going to catch on fire. They're going to be like, I don't know what happened to these folks. They were carrying this Bible and this thing of gasoline, and they just
But the Bible didn't burn.
Up in smoke.
It's amazing.
I mean, how do you investigate that?
I don't know. It's very. I guess you just take it as a sign, a miracle, or whatever, and
you don't investigate, right?
Exactly.
You just have to take it as faith.
You just accept it.
For the people that needed to see this, they should just accept it as faith.
Maybe it was for the firefighters.
For the firefighters.
It was for the firefighter. Yeah, maybe there was a firefighter that needed a
I'll tell you
miracle
what,
to happen.
it screwed those firefighters up.
It did.
It always does. I mean, can you imagine? Like, you just show up and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and your job is to...
excuse me, I got to use my cell phone for a second. Hello? Hey, is this Father Smith? Oh, yes. You might not remember me. I'm Timmy. I don't remember you at all. No, it's okay, Father Smith. I was going to see if I could come down there and see you and like, tell you my sins and be forgiven and everything. Oh, yeah.
Confession.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on down.
Moving on. Let's move on.
Okay.
Shall we? Miracle. Bible didn't burn. Okay. End of story. All right, so let's move on to this next story. And I know you saw the pictures of this online. It's about the humpback whale that washed ashore near the Amazon River,
right,
baffling the scientists in Brazil. They have no idea how this whale ended up about 50 feet inland.
Right, because, I mean, if we're talking about the mouth of it, is that where?
Yes, like at the mouth of the Amazon River on one of those remote forested islands that just
on
sort
the
of
Atlantic
sits right
Ocean
there.
side.
Yes.
So it's. I mean, there are whales there, though, right?
There are thousands of humpback whales that live there. Only this time of the year when this happened, they have already migrated south because they go down to where it's summer.
Right.
So this whale should have been thousands of miles away, and it's not. Instead, it's washed up in the middle of this forested area. It looks very strange in the picture because it's all trees and a big whale.
Well, maybe it was a young whale.
It was.
Oh, see, it's like a teenager.
They said it was
I'm
about.
gonna stay here and look at the trees. You know, they breathe air, but you know, it's still a good joke.
It's about 26 feet long, and it was lodged in the thick shrubs and brush. And by the time it was found, it had already been dead for several days. So they don't actually know what happened, how it ended up being by itself.
Could it be
Washed up.
murder?
Possibly. I think the consensus is that maybe it got lost and then it got washed ashore after, it died, and it got washed ashore when it was flooding or high tide. They really don't know. This isn't the sort of thing that just happens.
That's not particularly strange, though. I mean...
Well, the only thing that was really strange about it was the fact that this whale should not have been in this area right now. And so, over the weekend when it was low tide, they could get around it. They went and took some samples. They tried to figure out the cause of death and why this fish was here, how it got so far inland. It's just a really odd occurrence.
There wasn't any like Japanese sneaky whaling ships or anything. Like they figured out how to go up the Amazon River like underwater or something.
Let's hope not.
It's a Japanese whaling submarine. Did you ever watch those videos where like the Greenpeace people were trying to stop the whaling
I
ships?
think I have seen one.
They're nuts, man.
Yeah.
It's like
Because
really.
you'll die.
Yeah. It's really nutty watching them fight each other. I used to love the crap out of that. There was like a show or something, and I'd watch it, and
It's crazy.
I don't know. It was just interesting for a couple of minutes.
Well, this is just a really strange story because, like I said, super unexpected. There should not have been a whale in that area, and then to see it all beached up there in the middle of the trees and in the forest is very strange.
Well, you never know, man. You never know. It could have been abducted.
I mean, boy, that would have been hard. Do you think it takes 2 UFOs to abduct a whale? Do you think one could do it?
Just whoops.
It tried to pick it up. It was like, crap. It's not strong enough.
That's not funny. Let's go to the next story.
Is it not? So let's go on to this next story about Mars.
Cool.
Okay. So this is a story about how scientists find the first evidence of a huge Mars underground water system.
Ooh.
So the European Space Agency's Mars Express orbiter has been studying like 24 deep craters in the northern hemisphere. It's been looking for signs of water that once flowed there. And
They just like throw stones down and listens.
yeah, something like that. So the researchers studying this data from the orbiter believe that Mars once had a reserve of water between 4,000 and 5,000 meters below Mars's sea level. And since they were studying these 24 craters, 15 of the 24 had the same markers, the same evidence of slow-moving water.
Right.
And that led them to believe, because it was all at the same level, between 4,000 and 4,800 meters, they said that it suggests the idea that all of the craters they studied may have been connected by the same underground water system.
Wow.
Like it might be just one
And they also found like a whale out of place.
washed up the mouth of the river.
It's like, this is
terrible.
really strange. See, that would be odd.
They found a whale on Mars.
Yeah. That would be really. It's normally at the mouth of the Amazon, but no. So this is big,
It is.
If the findings could be, and I remember them talking about this before, theorizing it. If we find huge deposits of water underneath, and that's what we kind of suspect anyway, that underneath the surface of Mars may be where people retreat it to.
Right.
So it could very well could be all kinds of water down there.
And it says that the researchers didn't find evidence that the water had flowed from outside the craters in. So they believe that all the water was being fed from inside.
Wow.
So definitely some kind of underground system. Now, of course, this is not 100%, it's just the orbiter and the data from, nobody's been there to actually study and see it. But that's where all the evidence is pointing right now, which means this is where they're going to start focusing on for signs of life, because water life.
Water life, yes. You know what they should do?
What's that?
Create 2 giant effervescent tablets. And just
just
drop them from the orbiter
right
down into the hole and
so
see what
If it foams, obviously
we have water. I mean, come on, I could save so much money.
I'm serious. I mean, how much could a big effervescent tablet cost?
It couldn't be that much, right?
And it's probably not heavy either.
It's not hard to take. I mean, come on, man. I'm telling you, if we'd get back down to simple stuff,
right.
They need people like me at NASA.
They make it too complicated, don't they?
They do. They try to get all these wacky-dacky computers and all this stuff. You don't need math.
Why drill until you know for sure there's water down there?
Need a giant, and hey, it kills two birds, right? Literally. Like if you get some giant Seahawk or something, like coming at you, just some space bird.
Eat this.
Just like throw it into it.
That's terrible. That's terrible. But very cool discovery, and go ahead check that out. It'll tell you all the super details about it.
I always wonder if people go check out our stories and look for like the giant effervescent tablet part. It's like I know
he said something about that.
He's like telling their wives or something. Mary, I know for a fact I was listening to it, and they were talking about this Mars Explorer, and they dropped these giant Alka-Seltzers down the holes.
I do want to tell you this. I didn't get this as a story, but it was so funny when I read it. There is a story out there, a news story, that claims that asteroids are not as easy to blow up as Hollywood would make you think.
Glad they let us know that.
This is a real news story that apparently you can't just blow up an asteroid to keep it from hitting Earth. Apparently they've tried now, and they've realized.
How have they tried?
No, I don't know how they know that.
They don't know that. They tried it on a video game or something.
They've said, and the article actually says that it's not as easy as Hollywood make you believe.
Well,
because we all believe that's what's going to happen because it was in the movies.
Well, passionate sex without any kind of weird sounds is also not as easy as Hollywood makes you believe. they tend to leave out the sounds and smells that are the real part. Something else that is not real. Let me throw this out there.
Okay.
You may, while you're surfing around the internet, I'm going to start doing another show. Not that we don't do enough already.
Right.
But let's start doing another show. The stories that John and Stacy didn't use. So every week, we could have a show just with the stories that we didn't use.
Right.
This week, you know what my headline would be?
What's that?
Gargoyle humanoids spotted on video in was it Tijuana? Nicaragua. Yeah. Because I have to say it like Beavis.
Yes.
Like,
yes. Oh, yes. The big gargoyle that just landed on the light post and nobody saw it but the one person with the video camera.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wasn't even that convincing. Like, it wasn't even good for fake.
Right.
If it's a fake, I like it to be a good fake.
Right. At least try and make it believable.
It's a little bit darker than everything else, and just didn't work for me.
And then the fact that it was like a gargoyle with 6 legs and huge wings, and
people weren't
and it was
setting themselves on fire.
Right. And it was making loud noise. And,
yeah.
It was interesting.
Damn it, CERN.
CRISPR. Oh, sorry. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's talk about this cool discovery. I love this. This is about archaeologists that find a mysterious, quote, elixir of immortality in an ancient Chinese tomb.
Oh, that sounds good already.
Doesn't that sound cool?
It sounds like an awesome tomb. They could do our laundry too.
So researchers in China found this mysterious liquid contained in an ancient bronze pot from thousands of years ago.
Jeez.
And it turns out to be this famous potion that was fabled in Chinese legend.
Oh my God.
Isn't that awesome? So they unearthed it from a sprawling 210 square meter tomb that dates back to the Western Han Dynasty, which is like 202 BCE.
Oh my goodness gracious.
And so it was in the tomb with a huge amount of ancient artifacts, including painted clay pots and a goose-shaped lamp and the preserved remains of the tomb's occupant. It was all in there. But this mysterious liquid, they had no idea what it was. And it's been there for like thousands of years, like 2,000 years, just undisturbed. And of course it caught their attention right away because it was giving off this aroma of like rich wine. And at first they thought it was some kind of liquor. So they poured it out, and it was about 3.5 liters. It was like a transparent yellow color. And when they tested it, they found out that it was not wine, that it was a mixture of potassium nitrate and alunite, which you actually can't drink or it would be fatal. It's terrible ingredients. These are things that you can't consume in a safe way. But the combination of the potassium nitrate and the alunite is a match for the ingredients for what they say is an elixir of life that was documented in ancient Taoist texts.
Wow.
So they believe that that's what this was. And it's not known if it was meant to be consumed or if it was just to be put in the tomb with the deceased as, you know, a symbol. But the fact that they found something that was legendary, they've never found it before, is just amazing.
That is so cool.
Isn't that cool?
It didn't seem to work very well, but...
No. I mean... there's no word if that person came back to life. It doesn't seem that they did because the remains were in there. But I thought this was really awesome. Of course, the researchers were thrilled.
Yeah.
Because...
I can't believe they poured it out.
Well, they wanted to test it.
I don't care.
They wanted to...
I'm sorry, no.
They had to see what... They thought it was wine.
I don't care. So. You find this ancient, that's crazy ancient bottle. Man, don't just so easily pour that crap out.
Well, I'm sure they took super precaution. I don't think they just grabbed it out of the tomb. It's like, here, give me a bowl and pour it. I mean, they took it to a lab.
I didn't know that. I thought you meant that they really did it right there.
No, they tested it. They took it to a lab and they poured it out, tested it.
I thought they did like a field test or something.
No, I don't think that they would have done that. I think archaeologists are more responsible than that.
Well, except the ones that are building a hotel at the time.
Exactly. And move the things down the street.
Yeah, so just so people know that I'm not some flaming racist, the whole ancient Chinese secret thing, and I said the laundry, the only thing I think was this
ancient Chinese secret.
That's all I could think of when you said it was this old commercial from Calgon.
I remember that.
Do you remember it?
Dude.
I was just a little kid, man, and I think they played this all the time. And for some reason, when you said that, it triggered me. And so I had to look it up.
Ancient Chinese secret, huh?
It's terrible. It's terrible.
I do remember that commercial. I do.
Oh.
I do. It does say in this article that elixirs supposedly bestowing immortality and longevity were a feature of many long ago cultures. And in China, they were always comprised of unusual ingredients that you wouldn't actually consume, like gold, mercury, arsenic, jade, things like that. So that's why they don't know if anybody has, because the potassium nitrate, it can be fatal if you take it. I mean, they put that stuff in fireworks.
So they say, though.
Yeah. I mean, you never know, right?
Yeah.
Who would try it?
Well, do we know anybody that's dying?
No.
Oh.
No, not offhand, no.
Well, just keep it in the back of your mind.
Well, I think it's a cool discovery anyway.
Yes.
Cool discovery. All right, so let's move on to a UFO story.
Oh, I love UFO stories.
I know. So this story is about the Jorge Chavez International Airport located in Peru.
Of course it's located in Peru.
And there's something about this airport that seems to attract UFOs.
I mean, dude, have I not heard about this airport a million times?
Yes, because there's been a number of sightings there in recent years, including 2 different incidents in 2017.
Yeah, so we covered them on here.
Yeah, absolutely. So the latest UFO incident occurred just recently when 2 UFOs were spotted by airport staff who submitted a report showing pictures of the objects hovering over one of the runways for just under an hour.
I bet these guys have so many visits from the Men in Black that they just kind of stand there in the haze, because they get the little red light. Look at the light.
Right. Well, the report said at 1:30 a.m., they saw from one of the towers 2 UFOs just west of the station at approximately 9,000 feet. So if you think about 9,000 feet, that's not going to be like a drone. Like somebody's not going to have brought a drone.
Not
there.
a 9,000. No,
Right.
It's impossible.
And you're talking about 1:30 in the morning, so it's dark, so they're seeing the lights.
Well, it's not impossible. I think you could get a drone to 9,000
I mean, I think if you have like a military grade.
Yeah, a military drone could go way higher than that.
Right. But just like one you buy down at the local Walmart, it's not gonna go to 9,000 feet. Right. So this article that I'm gonna link to, there's a link to the official report that was submitted by the airport control tower employees. And
is it in Peruvian?
Yeah, actually, I think that it is, yes. But you can still look at it.
Right.
It's still very official. But it says, according to the translations,
I have no idea what this says, but it absolutely looks official as hell.
the report states that a number of pilots saw the UFOs and that they appeared on radar shortly
The glove
before
don't fit,
disappearing.
you must have quit. I'm sorry.
And there's links for photos as well. You can see the photos.
Oh, I like
of
photos.
The U.S.
Are the photos in Peruvian?
I think so, but I think you could probably still translate the pictures.
right.
I think you'd be all right there. So whoever wrote this article spoke with a Peruvian ufologist, and he's based in that area. He didn't witness these particular UFOs, but during the interview, he said that in the 19 years that he'd been investigating, UFOs and things, it was the first time that there was an official report. So it halted flights for 3 hours, and nobody has any idea what it was.
Oh.
So definitely unidentified. And by the way, sweetie, I think that the people that live in Peru are Peruvian, but I'm pretty sure they speak Spanish.
Well,
so the report's in Spanish.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
of course.
Right.
Of
You knew
course.
that. You knew that.
I absolutely did.
You did.
I absolutely did. I didn't
The
think.
pictures are in Spanish too.
No, of course. Of course. I didn't think they spoke Oriental. I mean, I don't know what you're talking about.
No idea. No idea.
I am woke.
All right. Well, let's move on.
Moving on.
So this is one of those news stories about a video, but we're going to talk about it. I know you can't see the video, but you're going to have to go and watch it. This is about a mysterious
Or imagine
stranger
really well.
that saves a man's life in Turkey. I don't know if the guy would have died, but it was a very strange video. So I'm going to
Saves a
explain it to
man's
you.
life in Turkey? They're both in trouble?
In Turkey.
Oh, in
Not
Turkey.
and a turkey.
Oh, I thought a man and his turkey got their life saved.
I mean, maybe the turkey needed it, but no, in Turkey. So this happened in Turkey.
Okay.
All right.
So let's start over.
Okay, so a mysterious stranger on this video saves a man's life in Turkey, and it's very odd. So there's this man who is a tradesman. He has a store,
Right.
and he's standing out front, and he's got his back to the road, and he's setting out, food and wares and that sort of thing. And on the
Food and what?
wares, things to sell. Don't you read nursery rhymes? Come on.
Could you not have just said he was sitting on his goods? I mean,
It's the same thing.
No, it's not.
It is.
It's not.
I don't know what he sells, so I called them wares.
It's wares.
Leave me alone.
You're ridiculous.
Anyway, he's setting out his stuff
Okay.
to sell. And this is being recorded from the security camera at his establishment. And on the camera, you can see it's a security camera. It's kind of fuzzy, but you can see a man walking down the street, and he's walking straight towards where the man's, working. And as he walks by, he reaches out and taps the man on the shoulder. He doesn't stop. It doesn't look like he says anything. He just walks by and taps him and keeps going. So the man turns around to see who taps him on the shoulder. And at that very second, a truck drives by with a huge gate that had come loose off the back of the truck, and it swung, and the guy had to jump out of the way to not get hit. Now, if that guy hadn't tapped him on the shoulder, he wouldn't have turned around. He would have been hit
Jeez.
with the gate.
Yeah, she's showing me right now the video.
So
This is crazy.
it is very, very crazy. Now, as the video goes on, they're doing an interview with the man. Again, it's in another language.
Wait, go
it's
back.
in Turkish.
Go back. Mm-hmm. Wow, guys, you're going to have to go. ParanormalSideshow.com. You got to go look at this. This is crazy.
It
Like
is
the
very
guy
strange.
taps his shoulder, walks by, and instantly this guy turns around. Instantly, this gate is coming at him. And if he hadn't been tapped, man, he'd have been dead.
Right. So it's an interesting video. I'm curious to know what some people think about it. I don't really have an explanation.
It's creepy.
For it.
I don't think that. Why would you can't. Number one, that. Okay, the only fake part to that would be if they set the event up, because there's nothing
Right.
on there that's CGI.
Right.
It's real event.
Right. I agree.
And it's too well timed. Like, you would have had to be a professional stuntman.
Right. Well, and the guy walking down the street that tapped him was before the truck.
Yeah.
So there's no way he could have known about the gate. I only have two issues with it, which can probably be explained. Two things I didn't really understand. The first one was the security camera moves a little bit, and that could just be because it's mounted bad, or it could follow people. It does move its position just a little, which I thought was strange. And the second thing is the man, when he turns around, turns the opposite of the way that he gets tapped. If I didn't know if you noticed that, like he gets tapped on one shoulder and he turned the opposite direction, which could just be
Jesus Christ, Nancy Drew.
he just. Well, I mean, it's just something I noticed.
No, I love it.
Because I thought that
This is why you review the video and I review the audio.
if someone tapped me on the shoulder, I would probably turn to the direction I was tapped on, and
I'd probably elbow him in the face.
He turned the opposite. Well, it could have just been he could have been startled. You know what I mean? Like, and just turned because he was startled.
Yeah.
That's a perfectly logical explanation. I don't know how to explain the rest of it. You know, it's still very strange.
I have an
very
irregular problem with people touching me on my back.
You do.
And I will literally punch you in the face.
Right. Right.
And I can't help it. It doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
It's I've floored people before. It's really strange. I don't know what that comes from either. But yeah, this is nuts, man. This is nuts.
It is strange.
But now that you've brought up those 2 points,
well, you know, and they're just minor points, but you know, if that guy that touched him on the shoulder knew that he was going to get hit with something, why wouldn't he stop and push him out of the way, or be like, "Hey, look out," or, you know, be more.
wouldn't it be funny if the guy was like me? It's just like a butthole. Like you know how sometimes I do that stuff? Like I'll just tap people.
Right.
On the road.
Yeah, like he was just doing it to be.
Yeah.
And it just so happened he saved this guy's
just
life.
so happened to save his life. Because I'll
funny.
tap people all the time on the wrong shoulder.
Oh, so now everybody's like, look at this amazing man. He's like an angel, and he's really just an asshole.
So here it is, dude. This is it. Okay.
Okay.
So every day this guy walks by this dude's stand.
Right.
Okay. He's been picking on him since high school.
Right.
And every time he walks by him, ever since high school, he always taps him on the wrong shoulder, and the guy always looks over that shoulder, right? Mm-hmm. And the guy's not there. He's like, yeah. And this time, right? So the guy's like, yeah, you freaking dick. I know he's coming. And he taps him on the wrong shoulder, and the guy's like, oh yeah, and he looks over the other shoulder.
Right. Right.
But this time he sees the cage coming. You know, we're all hailing this guy's a hero. So this has been the bane of this guy's existence. This dude, his whole life. Now this dude's in every magazine publication in the world, right?
Right.
For mysterious stranger saves life. And so right now, our little guy who escaped the cage is sitting there with the gun right in his freaking mouth. You know, he's like, you know, my whole life. And now he's the hero. So
I don't know.
That's my Hollywood ending for
like
it.
I said, there is an interview, and it's all in Turkish, so I don't know what he said. So I'm sure if that was the case,
are you sure
talk
it's
about
Turkish or is it Swahili that they speak there?
in Turkey. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Swahilish.
It's some language I don't speak.
Okay.
So, and there was no translation on it. So,
Well,
but it's a cool video. They should go watch it. All right. So let's go on to this next story. So this next story, I have like an update to a previous story and then another story. All together.
Like
okay.
Update.
So, do you remember the llamas that died? We talked about it.
That was terrible.
It was horrible.
Really weird
in
dude.
Louisville. Yes.
It's really strange.
So the Louisville Metro Animal Services came out and said that the bite marks on the 6 llamas that were found dead appear to be canine in nature. And so it's not clear if it was one animal or animals that attacked the llamas were dogs, coyotes, or another large animal. So far all they found out is that it was some type of canine animal, and that most likely there was more than one. And I would like to point out that this incident did happen around the full moon. Just saying.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Well, I mean, at this point, we almost have to speculate.
Right.
There's been so many events happen worldwide with vampiric, things that are part of it. And not that they're vampires, but there's been vampiric type things, meaning that their blood has been drained, and the attacks have been deadly, and the attacks have seemingly been random,
right,
and also just strange, just the and large animals,
right, and they're not knowing what type exactly of animal it is. So that leads me into this next story. That claims that 2 donkeys were found dead just miles from where the llamas were killed.
Wow.
And this has just happened, like a week later.
Wow.
So again, the Louisville Metro Animal Services had to go and investigate these animals. They were found by their owner on Sunday morning. It had been raining, and she thought that they had gone into the barn to get out of the rain. And she's had these donkeys for years on her property, no problems. But when she went to check on them, they were dead. And she claims that something grabbed them on the nose and on the back, and that it took several animals to take them down, that it was not just one animal, that there was definitely more than one. And the investigators did say that it was a, quote, wild animal attack, but they haven't determined what kind of animal was involved. So most likely the same animals that killed the llamas probably killed these donkeys as well. They're very close together.
So the llamas and the donkeys are both in Kentucky?
Yes, they're both in Louisville.
Wow.
Yeah, this only happened just several miles from each other. And so the Department of Fish and Wildlife is also investigating the new death with the donkeys. And like I said, they just don't know what type of animal exactly has done this.
That's scary. I mean, Louisville's a creepy place anyway.
It is.
I mean, it's very haunted. And Lexington and Louisville. But this is just a little bit scary.
It is. It really is. And it sounds like the Louisville Metro Animal Services has their hands full.
Well, since they know it's canine, so we're not talking about any kind of Sasquatch here. I mean, so it does go more into like some weird hell dog or some weird werewolf type thing.
And now the story about the donkeys, it just says that it was a wild animal. The llamas, they said definitely canine. But I mean, if I were them, I would speculate that it was the same group of animals. Yeah. Some kind of pack. They did say that if anybody saw any kind of coyotes or anything suspicious,
strange they don't have like tracks. It's strange they don't have something so identifying.
Right.
Because we know so much about indigenous animals, right? We know so much about, especially in metro areas,
right?
And this is people's jobs. They're out there doing this all the time, and they're really good at it. So animals are animals, right? They're not really concerned with covering their tracks, so to speak.
They got one coyote in the pack that's just on covering tracks.
Yeah,
he's back there scrubbing out the paw prints.
Yeah, no, but literally,
no, that's true. They're not going to worry about the evidence they left behind. They're just going to kill stuff.
And think about all the rain we've had. Okay. So even in this area here, we've had enough rain to fill up 50 rivers, for life. And so you would think that it would have been somewhat damp and wet around there.
It would have, whatever it was, would have left footprints or indentions or anything.
Something where they could have specifically said, hey, this was a bunch of wild coyotes.
Right, but then again, to that point, if it happened while it was raining, I mean, it could have just washed all the evidence away.
I guess, man. It
has been raining a lot.
It's just a strange story.
It is. It's a very strange story, and it just comes on the heels of all the other strange
ones. Again, patterns, right?
Right.
It's just like with the Bibles. We're like, by itself isolated, this could be talked. Even one or two, you can probably play it off. But when you're talking 8 or 9 stories like that in a short period of time, and the same thing with these go with those other mysterious beast attacks is all I can call them. I don't know if we ever got an update on that woman from North or South Carolina. I don't think we did. I've not seen
an update on that. No, it's like it's just gone
brushed
away.
Under, yeah,
right.
It's just absolutely brushed under the rug, and we suspect that all the time, right? That's what we expect. All of our stories are brushed away, but this is weird. I mean, keep your eyes open. Be careful. Definitely in the Southeast. If you're in the Southeast, be careful at night, especially with your animals. If you have some animals out there, be listening for sounds and stuff, because this is weird, people.
It is very strange. Well, I'll keep an eye on. Maybe they'll come out and say, when they determine what actually is doing it, or if they catch some kind of weird animal. That's what I'm waiting for, them to actually catch some kind of strange.
Oh, wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah. All right, so let's move on to another discovery. And this is an ancient Mayan discovery.
I don't have a commercial for that one.
No, I don't think you do. So an ancient Mayan ritual cave was discovered in a secret tunnel system.
Oh, wow.
And they found what they call a trove of relics that offer new clues about the ancient Mayan civilization.
They've got a bunch of Mayan wares.
They have. It's been discovered inside a sealed, what they call a ritual cave that has been undisturbed for thousands of years.
Would you open that?
Yeah, if I was an archaeologist, I think I would have to. Wouldn't you?
I don't know, man. Like I love doing stuff, but sometimes these ancient, hey, this has been sealed for 2,000 years.
Under the Mayan ruins of Chichen Itza.
Oh, I would open it.
Yeah, so they've been studying over there. I think they said they were searching for a water table underneath the ruins, and they uncovered a secret cave system that's known as Balamku, or Jaguar God.
Oh, wow.
That's what they call the cave systems.
Yeah.
And they believe that it's been sealed for about 1,000 years. And the researcher actually had to crawl for hours on their stomachs through these narrow passages in order to reach these hidden ritual chambers.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the site contained more than 150 different objects, including incense burners, plates, and bowls, just tons of stuff. I think that the researcher that they interviewed for this particular article said that the discovery was unlike anything he had ever uncovered, and he cried when he found it. Like, he just couldn't speak, and he teared up, and it was just amazing for him. So, yeah. So this is a National Geographic article that I'm going to link to. So there's some cool pictures and things like that. And they said that, he said it was really cool. The first time he went in there, he went in by himself. And he said the sensation of going into this, this ritual chamber that's been undisturbed by yourself, all quiet. He said it was like nothing he had ever experienced.
How awesome, man. That's a spiritual experience.
Absolutely. And he said you almost feel the presence.
Of course you do.
Of the Maya that had been in there. And it says the hundreds of archaeological artifacts belonging to 7 offerings documented so far are in an extraordinary state of preservation. And because it remains sealed for centuries, it contains invaluable information, related to the city and the Mayan, and, so they can just learn so much from all of these things that they just found. So really, really cool discovery. And I love that they were so diligent getting to it.
Just think about this. They're still finding sealed freaking treasure trove hidden rooms in Chichen Itza. I mean, as much as we've been all over that, it's just like when we uncovered it, we talk about the LiDAR quite a bit.
Right.
But think about what we're going to find under those. Under all the canopy in the bush,
Oh, yeah.
It's just unbelievable riches. And by riches, I don't mean money. I mean history and knowing things, and that's cool.
Yeah, well, they believe that it's just a ritual site because of how hard it is to get in there. So, it's not, you would only go in there to do a very special ritual. They feel like there's a possibility that they're going to find human remains in there. Supposedly the artifacts that they found date back to sometime between 700 and 1000 AD. So
yeah, there's human rituals in there.
I'm sure. So
That's
very,
just
very
how
cool
they jammed,
discovery.
man. That's just how they did it.
It's just the way they rolled. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
It's awesome.
I'm glad they're still studying those more famous, Mayan sites like
Chichen
Itza.
Obviously, there's still things there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's no way that they know everything there is to know about what happened there. So, all right, well, let's move on to a haunted story.
Ooh.
Yes. So this is a story about the show Coronation Street.
Oh.
Now, I don't watch that show myself, but supposedly one of the actresses was on a morning show.
Now, Coronation Street's the one that's been around since like 1985.
Yeah, it's like been on forever.
I mean, it's been on
really popular
forever. It's almost like a
soap opera.
Like a soap opera at nighttime, though.
Right. And one of the stars, her name's Julia Golding, she reveals that the set that they were filming on was haunted.
Ooh.
She believes that it was haunted. So supposedly during the show, there's some sort of hostage scenes. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because I don't know who's seen it and who's watching it, and I don't want to give anything away, but there's some sort of hostage scenes, and they were being filmed in a mansion. And she claims that as they were filming, they were doing a take, and the sound operators would stop the take and tell everybody to be quiet because all they could hear over their booms was whispering.
Oh, we know how that goes.
Yeah. And so then they would say, everyone, please be quiet. And nobody had been talking.
Yeah.
And she said that even one of the other actors was really scared because they all knew that nobody had been talking, but the guys listening on the boom mics were like, we can hear the whispering. Just quit it. So I thought that was really awesome because that is something that we have experienced over a boom mic.
Freaking awesome. Yeah. I mean, that was one of the, early on, we were already doing documentaries, and I think we were filming one in 2010, and we had the boom mic.
Yep.
So the sensitivity was already much better than a normal microphone, but we turned the gain up because what happened is we did hear some whispers come across and in real time, and then we're like, you know what? Just give me that as a And it was actually Wes's idea. He said, just take this as a equipment.
Yeah.
And he's like, let's turn the gain all the way up for your high gain mic and stand it there. You could actually go to youtube.com and Paranormal Sideshow. Okay. Go to our Paranormal Sideshow and watch the Kingsport Grocery Company documentary. That's the Kingsport Grocery Company documentary. On there, you're going to see this happen in real time. You'll see me at the elevator shaft. And that's when Wes, our producer / camera guy, handed me this. And I turn it up and you can hear it. What I'm hearing in my headphones is what I heard, what you hear on the TV is what I heard in my headphones.
Right.
And the people there didn't really hear it.
No, because you were wearing you had headphones on.
And by the way, before we move on, I just did the Google machine.
Right.
I was curious about Coronation Street since it's like on the other side of the pond.
Right.
And it's a little bit older than 1985.
Is it?
1960, dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the British and not ever ending a show.
I'm telling you, I love that.
Yeah, I do too. Doctor Who,
that.
Coronation Street. Just imagine that. You could have been a kid in 1960 and still watching two of your favorite shows.
Yeah. That's insane.
Isn't that awesome?
Yes, it is awesome. I love that they, keep going with that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I have just a few more stories.
So let me ask you, if you grow up on a soap opera,
right?
Say you're one of the babies that are born on a soap opera, and you grow up on there in front of everyone's eyes, very Truman Show. I mean, all you ever know is being taken care of, but you're always busy because you're doing the show. Don't you think, to some extent, that would become your family and that would become your life?
Oh, absolutely.
It would be hard to separate that. If you're on that show every day, because it's a soap opera, so you're on that show every day or 5 days a week or whatever, all the way your whole life. And let's say if they started that, they could be in their 50s or 60s, right?
Right.
So say they're in their 50s and they've always been on the show. Okay, I'm just using an example. How crazy would that be? How would you separate that? That would feel like your real life.
Yeah, it would. It would be really hard. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't have an answer for that.
I mean, and if I watched a show for that many years, every day, that would feel like family members to me.
Absolutely. Because you've been through everything with them.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Anyway.
Definitely not a show you go back and binge from the beginning.
Well, it's nuts because, you know what? In the whole human existence, this has never happened.
Right.
In the whole human existence, up until the people that are like 70 years old now the people that are like 70 or 80, they could have had this their whole life. But before that, this was impossible. This didn't happen. So it is interesting that some of these people, you get really drawn into these characters on television because they're in your home, right?
Right.
They're in the safety of your home. Daryl Dixon is in the safety of my living room once a week.
Right.
And feels like you get to know the character and, hey, if Daryl dies, we riot, that kind of thing. And you get that close to him. So anyway, it's just a thought, just a random thought.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting anyway. And that was a cool story too about the haunted mansion. I'm curious what mansion that is. I might have to dig around and see.
Dig.
All right, so just a couple more stories here. This first one is about the Loch Ness Monster. Wow. And there has been 2 sightings within 5 days of each other.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yes. So now in 2019, I think that we've only had one other sighting, 2019.
All right.
So this is pretty early in the year.
We had a bunch last year.
Well, there was about 15 sightings last year, which is quite a lot, I think. So the beast was spotted and photographed by a woman on February 23rd.
Cool.
And what happened was they were driving, her and her partner, it says, were driving down the street near the castle.
Right.
And she saw something in the loch. And she was like, oh, turn around, I've seen something. He didn't see it. But he slowed down the car and he didn't really believe her, but whatever. And he turned around and she had her camera. And by the time she took a picture, it had already lowered down. So she saw more of it than what the picture is.
Right.
But she was just flabbergasted. She's absolutely 100% sure she saw the Loch Ness Monster. And she said that, her partner didn't see anything because he was driving, but that her reaction was very convincing.
Right.
So, and then just like 5 days later, another gentleman who is an avid Nessie hunter has a webcam that points down at the loch near the Klansman Hotel. And he sits there sometimes and he watches the webcam. So he said on this one particular day, he had been watching the webcam for about 20 minutes and he noticed the dark object appear briefly and then it was gone again. So he replayed the live cam and he stopped it and got a photo of it, just how it was, didn't zoom in or anything. And he said there was no traffic, no other boat traffic. He watched it for like another 20 minutes and there was not anything. So whatever it was came up from underneath and went back down. And it was a black Nessie looking like figure. So that's awesome.
That's
two
crazy.
More sightings already. So we're up to 3 now.
No, that's
Just
nuts,
now
man. I love
March.
it.
Yeah. So Loch Ness still there.
And it's very weird. On these last 2 sightings, there was some experts come out since those sightings took place, completely debunking them. And not debunking them, but just saying that they're hogwash.
Right.
And that the Loch Ness Monster isn't real. And it was very strange because as many sightings that come out and people are fine with, we have these 2 sightings within a 5-day period. And all of a sudden I get 2 experts, air quotes here, and they come out and say, no, this is hogwash. It didn't happen. This is Loch Ness Monster's not real. And I thought,
like they're protesting too much.
Well, no, I thought that was very peculiar because
you don't usually get that.
You don't get that normally. And plus, I mean, what's it hurting these people that are thinking they're seeing it? It's no different than 1,000 others.
Exactly. And it's just a black shadow on the loch.
That always makes me think though that there is something when somebody or 2 people come out like that. Right. That always points to it to me.
Right. Well, I'll also link to that other story from Ireland. I didn't actually bring that one, but of the woman that took the picture of the lights under the water, which was very crazy and unusual. I don't think there's an explanation for that either. No. She saw some lights blinking and stuff underneath the water.
Awesome, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like a USO. Is that what you call it?
There was a couple of witnesses to that, and it sounded really... I mean, it looked like it was a really cool thing, and we saw the picture. So
yeah, there's absolutely some great pictures, better than the Loch Ness Monster pictures. Yeah. Really, a lot clearer. Yeah, but very strange. It's not something you normally see.
No, better than a flying gremlin.
Definitely better than the flying gremlin. All right, so let's go on to this next story, and this is about the FBI seizing thousands of artifacts from an Indiana home. And they made this what they call a staggering discovery. So this is about a man named Don Miller. He was an older gentleman. He has since passed. He was 90 at the time that this happened. He lived in Indiana, and he was like a very charismatic guy, very beloved. People loved him. He was a missionary in Haiti. And he was like an amateur archaeologist. He loved collecting things. And his entire house was like a museum, and he would show his collection to anybody that wanted to come by, residents and reporters and Boy Scouts. And supposedly he had this very big personality, loved to tell big stories, talk about being part of the Manhattan Project and, just all sorts of, just a great all around guy. So back in 2014, the FBI showed up to seize part of his collection. And the FBI hasn't talked about what they were there looking for until now. It's just been released that they were there because they got a tip that he had human remains.
Oh, that's a no-no.
So they found about 2,000 human bones.
Wow.
And to the best of their knowledge, it represents about 500 people. And they believe that they are mostly Native American.
Right.
But while they were there, they looked at his collection. We're talking thousands and thousands. The pictures of this are unbelievable. They ended up seizing about 5,000 artifacts that had to be repatriated to the countries that they came from because he supposedly got them from illegal means, or he wasn't supposed to take them out of their countries, that sort of thing. He loved this stuff so much, and he wanted it, and his house looked like a museum.
Right.
It was crazy. But the strangest part of it is that that they found all of this human remains and they didn't really let that out until just now. And so now they're having to working with different tribes and stuff and trying to get everybody back where they belong.
Yeah, and the tribe will get it back and throw it in the ground. I mean, it's...
Yeah, his collection, it says his collection was some 42,000 items.
Wow.
42,000. And so he has since passed, but his wife is still alive. She doesn't really comment. She doesn't really comment on it. She does let them, she let them take whatever they said they needed to take.
I'm sure they took the rare, expensive stuff.
I'm sure. But the pictures are amazing. You have to go look at the story. And, it was just something that he loved doing.
How interesting. I mean, it was beautiful, though.
Yeah.
If you look at it, it really looks like a museum. And, I mean, his house was a museum where people come to see him. It was really neat.
It was very neat. And this is, now when I say the FBI, it's the FBI's art crime unit.
Right.
So what's happened is he's opened his home to all these people,
FBI
and somebody's told on him.
Oh, those are ones that got in trouble at some point.
The art crime people.
They take it really serious, too. Excuse me, sir. I'm from the art crime division of the FBI.
Well, I
used to work on the Mueller probe. But
I think some of those countries are really, angry about the fact that some of their stuff was gone. So
were they?
I believe so. I mean, there are countries that, there's laws against taking artifacts out of certain countries.
Do you know all those laws were created because of the English and the Americans?
Yeah. Because they go and take whatever they want. They take
and the French.
Right.
The French, definitely. They always took the art.
I'm not sure how I like the way you said the French and then looked at me.
I'm sorry. I forgot.
Kidding.
I have to be French appropriate now. PF.
How does PF turn into French appropriate?
What is P in PC?
Politically correct.
Oh yeah, so you're politically French. No, that doesn't. So it'd be FC.
I guess so.
Francais correct.
There you go.
Francais correcte, or something.
All right. Well, let's go on to this last story.
All right.
So this is about a new Portland cruise that you can go on that tracks Bigfoot through the Columbia River Gorge.
Oh, cool.
So this is
Does Jose Canseco drive the boat?
No, but they do have the guy from Finding Bigfoot.
Cliff? Or Bobo?
Cliff Barackman.
Oh, see, I would go if it was Bobo.
Well, this is what
I love Bobo.
I love the description of this because
I don't dislike Cliff, but just Bobo's voice, just like, hey, Will, here you go. This is the boat here.
Well, you might change your mind because the trip takes about 7 hours, and during the entire 7-hour trip, they play recordings of Barackman's accounts of Bigfoot sightings and theories the entire time.
Oh my God.
Could you listen to Bobo talk for 7 hours?
Oh my God. I could listen to Bobo talk for 7 hours.
Right.
But oh my God.
So starting June 15th.
Oh my God.
This is in Portland, Oregon. So starting June 15th, Portland Spirit will be taking boatloads of Sasquatch hunters through the Columbia River Gorge to track down the mythical cryptid. And they're going to stop along the way, eat, that sort of thing. But it is a 7-hour long trip. It starts in downtown Portland and ends 140 miles down the river at Cascade Locks. And it says they play recordings of Brockman's accounts of Bigfoot sightings the entire time. So it's either a wonderful, amazing trip or it's secret torture. I don't
wish
know.
They could just play the calls of people that think they know the secret Bigfoot language. Just the whole time, just play it. Just
there you go. Just listen. They should have got a hold of people that could actually talk to Bigfoot and let them talk to Bigfoot on the way.
You'll never catch me. Ever. I mean, you know what?
Right.
It's such a cool thing. Hunting Bigfoot is so awesome. And I've really dove into it. We're doing a couple of cons this year. Very excited about it. I say you're never going to hear me, but sometime this summer, you're going to
be howling.
You're going to hear me, and I'm just going to be. Because I'll tell you what, you probably feel your pants when they back.
Hollered back, exactly. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you that story that David Weatherly told us on our Realm of Shadows show. That was creepy.
That was creepy. You can't give it away. But
no, I'm not going to give it away. If that had happened to me, I'd been, ooh.
Yeah.
So it says that they're going to stop at the Locks Grill for some food, and that you will still get a fascinating view of the wildfire recovery, because I guess they had fires there because there's new growth beginning. and you can see, all of that recovery happening. So a cruise passes under Portland's bridges by Rooster Rock State Park and Multnomah Falls and under the Bridge of the Gods.
Oh, well,
so
that's nice.
It sounds like a really cool boat ride.
Take you to the Bridge of the Gods is great.
Just bring some earplugs with you if you don't want to hear what's going on. But it says it'll run all summer through September. It costs about $98 a person, which is pretty.
I'm sorry. It's like Stacy is a cat or something, and somebody touched that one spot on her back where her brain quits working.
I couldn't think of the word I was trying to think of.
She was touching her headphones and like, I can't think of what they are. That was great.
About $98 a person, which is very reasonable for that long of a boat ride.
I guess. What do we compare that to? Chinese water torture?
No, I was comparing it to what it costs to go on a boat ride in Maine. Which
7 hours of us playing a tape.
If you have a group of 15 or more, the cost goes down to $78. So grab your friends.
Yeah, the friends you don't particularly like.
And bring them along.
No, that's a terrible sounding day out.
Maybe not if you're a Sasquatch hunter.
No, you're always nice. Okay, I get it.
I'm the one that just said you'd bring earplugs. Always nice.
That's horrible.
Well, there you are. That's all my news.
And that was awesome. I applaud it. Now I've got a little surprise for you.
Okay.
We were talking about this incredible book that's out.
Right.
Okay. And that book is called Till Death and Beyond.
Yes.
It's the haunted journey of John and Stacey Edwards.
Yes.
And you can also find that on Amazon.com. Mm-hmm. If you just look up Till Death and Beyond, it's going to pop up with our picture.
Right.
Or you can go to paranormalsideshow.com and follow the link.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to do something special.
Okay.
Just for our listeners that are still with us, I'm going to read a selection from our book.
Oh.
I'm going to give you a preview, if you will.
Okay.
So I'm going to read this to you guys because I think you need to hear it. This little selection from our book. And just wanted to do this. I thought it would be fun to give you a little bit of a taste of the book. If you haven't purchased it yet, hopefully this will either make you want to purchase it or make you decide that you made a good decision in not getting it.
All right, let's hear it.
The People at the Door. It was a sunny and warm spring morning in Hampton, Tennessee. I was enjoying a little siesta with my baby daughter, a rarity, as the time of day was around 10 a.m. Although I was used to strange occurrences happening around me and to me, I could have never have prepared myself for what I was about to experience on that otherwise normal weekday morning. Sometimes I would be awakened by loud knocking just as I was about to fall asleep, only to get out of bed and discover that nobody was knocking on any doors. During my time at the Black House, things like that had just become the unfortunate norm. The neighborhood we lived in was a very quiet one, with neighbors who never bothered with us, and mostly older folks. When a car would make its way down my street, I would feel myself looking out the windows most of the time, because it was just a rare occurrence to hear someone coming or going in that circle. This morning, however, I never heard the car as I was sleeping, and I also didn't hear the knock before I heard the raucous laughter. Something woke me up, and I can only make guesses as to who or what that might have been. Perhaps the woman who'd passed away in the downstairs bathroom and was occasionally glimpsed floating towards the windows by the kids was alerting me to danger, since Ari was also lying fast asleep. Regardless of the why, I woke up. The real story revolves entirely on what happened when I did. As I mentioned before, I heard laughing and cackling, but let me tell you this. It was freaking creepy. More of a Clockwork Orange kind of crazy vibe that I instantly felt occurring. I'm 6'2", have never been scared of anything, and I found myself feeling severe anxiety simply from the diabolical laughter growing louder and louder. My worst fears were realized as the knocking began. It wasn't some run-of-the-mill, would you like to buy some Thin Mint cookies kind of knocking. This was open up, it's the po-po variety of beating down a door. In 10 out of 10 cases, I would march my big ass down the stairs, open up the front door, and smash someone's nose deep within their skull for beating on my door, like they were attempting to wake the bleeding dead. This time, I found myself absolutely terrified. Every hair on my body was standing on end, and I was nearly paralyzed with an absolutely irrational fear. A knock on the door always instills a certain sense of paranoia in the times we now live in. But I've never once before been so afraid to peek out of a window. I felt that they would know I was peeking, would definitely be looking back up at me. And in this situation, I felt like the intruder. In that moment, I lost every ounce of me I had previously known. As the beating on the door and laughing continued, I finally had all I could take, and my better sense of reality started sinking back in. So off to the window I went to check and see who was disturbing my sanity on this now very ominous and unusual spring morning. As I carefully crept over to the window to look down on my front porch, I could see the front door actually bending in from the force of the unnerving blows it was receiving. The thin lines of the outside daylight were sneaking inside from around the top right-hand side of the door with every strike. Ever so subtly, I used my index finger and my thumb to open a crease in the blinds to try to capture a glimpse of the unknown assailants. What I witnessed at that moment has haunted me more than almost anything that I've ever seen, including the apparition of legs with no upper torso that I spied at Waverly Hills Sanatorium. There were two people, both beating wildly on the front door. One male and one female, both appearing to be young adults in their early to mid-20s. They were wearing clothes that appeared to be from a 1970s thrift shop, not only looking out of time, but also unable to find something to fit properly. The attire was not at all the correct size for either of these extremely thin and pale people. My well-trained eyes quickly surveyed the immediate surroundings for some kind of vehicle, and I saw a nondescript clunker, not in my empty and very accessible driveway, but halfway in my front yard, already facing towards the road rather than the circle, as if ready for a quick getaway. The girl had long brown hair, and the guy had short, normal guy hair. Nothing about the two of them would really stick out except for their weight and very pale complexion. Being a firm believer in the Constitution of our great United States of America, I'm a gun owner. Although I like to take care of things intelligently and without violence whenever possible. If you potentially threaten my safety or the safety of my family, then we will indeed have a serious problem. I knew I needed to get my gun and open the door to confront the situation. I needed to get my faculties back in order and protect both my daughter and myself before they actually broke through the door. Within the exact same moment of this Ted Nugent type thought hitting my primal America brain parts, the knocking ceased. The laughing was over and finished. Everything terrifying me was instantly gone. I turned to look back outside, but this time without trepidation. I wanted to see what in the actual hell was going on. I was mad. I was concerned. But most of all, I was no longer scared. When I fearlessly pulled open the blinds to see what 1970s Bonnie and Clyde were up to, they were gone, without a trace. I looked to see if I could get a plate number and call the cops, but the car was also vanished. In a matter of maybe 15 to 20 seconds, the out-of-time couple, the Brady Bunch clothes, the pale and skinny bodies, and the Uncle Buck car were all gone. To this day, I have no idea whatsoever how they could have even reached a car in that short amount of time, much less get in and leave without so much as a peep of a car door slamming, an old engine revving up, or a peeling of rubber in my front lawn. This has been and will continue to be one of the oddest moments of my entire life. The people at the door. And that is one of the chapters, one of the stories, The People at the Door. So I hope you liked it.
Yes.
I know you liked it, or I hope you liked it.
I think that is a creepy story.
I wish you'd have been home that day.
Yeah, I know. Me too.
It was terrifying, man. I tell you, like, legit, it was so scary because everything I write about there was just exactly how it was. I had an irrational fear, and they were just kept beating on the door and laughing and just
well, like you said, that it's so unusual for that area, for there to be even people that didn't live in that neighborhood, 'cause it was all just cul-de-sacs. It was circles, and it was out of the way, and it wasn't on the way to anything.
I had no doubt in my mind that if they were gotten in, they were going to murder me. No doubt in my mind. But when rational thought comes back,
right,
you realize that they were out of time. You realize that there was just something wrong with the whole story. And being in the world we live in, being in the world that you and I choose to walk through,
right,
these kind of strange things happen.
They do.
And this was more, it's weird because it's a hybrid of a Men in Black story and a Black Eyed Kid story.
Right.
To me, that's sort of the realm it falls in. But, hey, all I can say is paranormalsideshow.com. That's where you go. Best place you can find all these links. From my lovely, beautiful wife, Stacy, I'm John. So long from the Sideshow.
Good night.
Hey guys, if you like what you've heard, please check out paranormalsideshow.com and follow the links for our weekly podcast. Also, become a sideshow off yourself and pick one of our killer levels on our Patreon to help support the channel and to help keep us bringing you bigger and better content. So until next week, for my lovely wife Stacy, I'm John Edwards. So long and
stay strange.